Hello everyone, that manga kid here to do my wrap up of Laura and Jen, Manga Hoarder and Shelf Space Fleeting's manga readathon that they did from July 15th through the 21st. So I'll just get right into it. I did manage to get bingo along the bottom here. All the highlighted ones are ones I did challenges on their bingo sheet I managed to complete. I read 24 books in total, so I'm pretty proud of myself for that. And I started off on the 15th with Utsubora, the story of a novelist. This is what I read for the one-shot, so complete story in one volume. This was an amazing mystery josei title, I believe. Yeah, I'm not going to flip through it because it's quite sexually explicit, but I really, really enjoyed that one. Next, I read Tokyo Ghoul Volume 5. Love the back cover there. And then I read Tezero by Natsume Ono, and this is what I read for the short story collection. This was so pleasant. If you've read anything by Natsume Ono, you know how wonderful her storytelling is. Just so sweet and innocent and cute and very loving. Lots of stories about family in here. Yeah, great choice. Next, for LGBT character, I read Kiss Blue, Volume 1. This is about two friends. One of them is gay and likes his best friend, but is too nervous to tell him because he's scared he won't want to be friends anymore. Really, really love this. I don't have Volume 2, which is the final volume, unfortunately, but I hope to get it someday and finish this series. And finally, on the 15th, I read High School Debut Omnibus Volume 5. So this is volumes 13, 14, and 15. I've read High School Debut so many times through, and this was just my 6th or 7th time through, but my first time reading the 2 extra volumes that had never been previously published before these omnibuses, so really enjoyed that one. Then on the 16th, I started off with Flying Witch, and I read this as my slice of life title. This is really cute, very sweet, funny, and the art is actually quite impressive. The backgrounds I really, really enjoyed. So that's what I read for that. Then I read The Law of Ueki for a title with a volume 1 that has green on it. This is a kid who has a superpower that is he can turn trash into trees. So lots of green on this cover, kind of a green story about recycling and whatnot. So as soon as I heard that title, that challenge about having green on the first volume of a cover, I knew I had to read this volume. It was really fun, old shonen series by Viz. Next, I read Kashimashi, Girl Meets Girl, and I read this for a genre I don't normally read, because I do not read a lot of Yuri titles. I have been trying to get into it more, but this is kind of a harem-y, sci-fi-esque. It's not super great. I didn't love it, but it was funny and entertaining enough. Then I read Tokyo Ghoul Volume 6 and Volume 7, which would make this 3 volumes in a series in a row that I read for that challenge. Then on the 17th, I started off with the Tarot Cafe. This is a manhwa, so a Korean series, so this is what I read for a volume that is not manga. Really, really enjoyed this. It has really cool art. It's a supernatural kind of thing. Lots of supernatural beings go and get their tarot card reading to see their future or something. I enjoyed it, and I own a few more volumes, so I really can't wait to read them. Next, I read Say I Love You Volume 1, and I read this for a romance title. So there's that. And then I read Volume 2 as well on the same day, and I read this one as volume that has a female lead character. And then on the 18th, I started off with Danza, also by Natsume Ono, and I read this as manga that takes place outside of Japan. Now, technically, one of these short stories takes place in Japan, but the rest of them take place in Italy, so I'm still counting it as stories that take place outside of Japan. Then I read Happiness Volume 2 by Shuzo Oshimi, and I read this as a title that has a supernatural being as the main character, as there are vampires in this story. Yeah. Then I read Happiness Volume 3, and this was released in February, I believe, of this year, so I used this as a title that was released in 2017. And then I read Togari Volume 4. This is another old out-of-print Viz title. And then on the 19th, I continued with Togari by reading Volume 5, Volume 6, Volume 7, and finally Volume 8. So I used the Readathon to get through a series that I've owned for a little while now, but just never got around to reading, so I'm really happy I finished that. And then also, still on the 19th, I read Happiness Volume 4 and Volume 5. Then on the 20th, I got extremely sick and could barely stay awake, let alone read. I had such a bad headache. I managed to get through one volume of manga, and that was Inuyasha Volume 1, which I originally wanted to use for the volume that has a demon as a main character, demon or immortal being, but I didn't know if I'd get to this, so I used Happiness instead, but this is what I originally had on my list, and I'm really glad I got to read it, but unfortunately this is the only volume I read on the 20th, and this was actually the final volume I read for the entire readathon, as the 21st I had an even worse migraine and could not. I tried so hard to get through Yu-Gi-Oh! Volume 1. I got a little bit into it and I just couldn't get any farther. But anyway, so this is volume 24 of all the volumes I read for the readathon. I just want to say thank you to Jen and Laura, because this was so much fun. I had a really, really good time, and I read tons of manga on my shelf that I've been meaning to get through for a while. Yeah, if you made a video about the readathon, a wrap-up video, then let me know so I can check it out. I'll have Laura and Jen's YouTube channels in the description below. Yeah, if you haven't already and would like to, please subscribe, and thanks for watching. See ya.